This episode is brought to you by Pure Astrology Reading Cards. For more information, check out the link in the show notes.
Welcome to the Starzology Astrology podcast. I'm your host, Arwynne O'Neill, and today I'm going to be talking about Mars in Gemini. Mars is currently going to be in Gemini, if you're listening to this in 2024, from July 20th through September 4th. Mars moves pretty quickly, so it takes about 2 years to go all the way around the zodiac, and due to retrograde periods, it can spend as little as 6 weeks in a sign or as many as 7 months. Now that may sound like a huge range, and that's kind of bizarre, for most planets kind of have either a crazy elliptical orbit like Pluto or an incredibly regular orbit like the sun or the moon. Sometimes it can go into a retrograde phase while it's in the same sign. So last time Mars was in Gemini was in 2022. It entered on August 20th, and it was there until March 25th, 2023. It retrograded in October, and it stayed in Gemini the entire time. So that was an incredibly long transit of a sign for Mars. But this time it's only going to be about 2 months. So let's talk about what Mars is like by transit in Gemini. So when Mars transits through the airy, mutable, masculine, or positive sign of Gemini, it's considerably less focused than in some other signs. This isn't what we would consider like a super forceful, aggressive placement for Mars, but it's also not in its detriment. We might expect with any placement in Gemini, there's going to be more of an intellectual, chatty, indecisive, and scattered energy. We're in the northern hemisphere, so this might be perfect timing for the summer, because who wants to be super fixed and dogged in their pursuit of their ambitions when the weather is warm and beach vacations and weekend barbecues are beckoning? That being said, Gemini is not a bad placement at all for Mars, and although we may at times feel restless and indecisive during this transit, our attentions may be pulled in many different directions, but we're likely to feel alive with sparkling, effervescent, and positive energy, specifically an intellectual and mental kind of energy. We might feel like chatting up new and old friends, dancing late into the night, hosting a game night, or a sing-along, or enjoying summer fun like fireworks, festivals, and street fairs. Even solitary pursuits like getting engrossed in an exciting book, binging a new TV show or podcast, these could be excellent uses of Mars in Gemini's intellectual energy. As Robert Hand says in his seminal book, Planets in Transit, Mars is a planet of energy, and it specifically rules the energy that an individual uses to maintain themselves in the face of pressures from their environment. So Mars is also connected with work and physical effort, and its transits often signify days when you become very energetic or vigorous. What happens when Mars is maybe transiting your sun or your moon or Mercury? It could really ramp up your communication if it's transiting your Mercury. And if you actually have Mars in Gemini, this will be like a Mars return for you. So everybody has a Mars return every couple of years. It just depends on how long it's going to be in the sign that it is transiting. You also want to look at what house Mars is going to be transiting through for you. Wherever you have Gemini in your chart, that's going to be the area that's lit up by this transit. So if you have Gemini rising, for example, Mars is going to be going through your first house for this couple of months, and it will light up your personality, your self-expression, your identity, your self-esteem, and could give you a great boost of self-confidence or indicate a time when you're presenting yourself to the world. And this could be a great time for you because you'll find it easier to express yourself in your naturally effervescent Gemini fashion with Mars lighting up your first house. This could also be a great time to meet new people or make a great impression on people you already know, to champion a cause that's close to your heart, or undertake a sort of self-makeover to present yourself or your ideas in exciting new ways. You're also going to want to look at any aspects that Mars will be making to planets in your chart. So if you have any major placements in Sagittarius, for example, Mars will be translating opposite those planets while it's in Gemini. So this could bring conflicts with people, opposition to your ideas, impediments and obstacles that suddenly come up and hinder your movements and thwart your ambitions or aims. Any other major placements you have in mutable signs will be affected by Mars transiting through Gemini. And this includes any planets that you have in Virgo or Pisces, because those are going to receive squares from Mars in Gemini. Now, what does Mars in Gemini look like in the birth chart? As with any air sign, Mars in Gemini tends to have more mental energy and social activity associated with those martial tendencies. These people might be more the type of people to spar with you verbally than physically. They could be intellectually inexhaustible, pursuing higher education or gobbling up trivia like information junkies, memorizing movie quotes or song lyrics or sports statistics in order to repeat them back at you at the ready anytime the conversation turns to their topic of choice. Or they could be a great person to have on your pub trivia team with their sparkling, broad-based intellect. These people love to exchange ideas, and they're motivated by communication, social, and intellectual stimuli. They may be the type of person to go off on a political rant or some obscure tangent at the drop of a hat, or to drone on and on about whatever their personal interests are, and this could exhaust other people in the room. Used correctly, they may be excellent, engaging teachers or professors, journalists, radio hosts, or podcasters, influencers, marketers, or salespeople. Used incorrectly, they could just be like the Cliff Clavin at the bar who once started off on any topic can never shut up, and people around them just become bored and exhausted and maybe drift away to another table or another area of the bar. Or, of course, in Cliff's case, it was just a funny quirk of his personality and nobody really seemed to get tired of it. And we still mention his name even 30 years after that show went off the air. Since Mars is one of the relationship planets, along with Venus, we also want to look at your Mars placement to find out what kind of a person you are in relationships. So Mars is the planet of desire and going after your object of affection. So people with Mars in Gemini will be the type of person who want to charm you with their wit, their intellect, their conversational moves, and their lofty ideas. Of course, keeping their interest is going to be the real challenge. Mars in Gemini is not known for its ability to focus on one thing or one person for very long. Stephen Arroyo, in his book Person-to-Person Astrology, which I always love to quote, says the essence of Mars in Gemini is that it asserts itself verbally, flexibly, cleverly, communicatively, and through a variety of skills. The focus of one's desire changes very quickly and often, and they're easily diverted. Expresses a wide-ranging friendliness, very good at making connections, and their physical energy and sexual drive are affected by mentally stimulating conversations, images, or curious new ideas. They are very open-minded. They may appear or behave especially youthful and embody a sort of ageless vitality and charm, flirting or putting on charms for people of all ages and genders indiscriminately. This could be the guy who you dated just long enough to bring them home to meet your parents one time, and years later they still ask, whatever happened to this guy? He made such an indelible impression and then flitted off onto the next flower before you had a chance to make a real connection. This isn't to say they can't commit, though. The wonderful thing about Mars in Gemini is that these people are genuinely interested in the thoughts and ideas of other people. They're open-minded, curious, and communicate very well with their partners. So if you do make a lasting love connection with someone who has Mars in Gemini, they could turn out to be a wonderfully stimulating and exciting life partner. They could keep you laughing well into old age, exploring new ideas and interests together long after other couples have settled into mutual silence. Grant Louie, another astrologer, says of Mars in Gemini, that you are rarely bored or boring, but you can wear yourself and others out by the ferocity of your attack on life. You are extraordinarily aware of the world around you. Sense perceptions are acute, swift, and probably accurate, and you are valuable in expressing whatever you take in. Energy flows naturally to the tongue. You are a better talker than a listener. With any concentrated force, this position gains value. Without it, you scatter your energies. He also cautions that Mars in Gemini individuals need to take care of their bodies as well as their minds, because there is a danger of neglecting your physical and your physical well-being because you are so focused on mental pursuits. Some more key words for Mars in Gemini. These people are quick thinkers. They tend to be very quick-witted and mentally agile. They are communicative, and they have a ferocious need to communicate. So the drive to communicate and express their ideas is very strong. This is about the aggressiveness with which they express their ideas, but it's also about the need to express their ideas. So they may not be specifically forceful in their communications, but the drive to communicate or the need to communicate tends to be very strong. So it could be one or the other or both. They're very curious. They're naturally curious about a variety of things, and their desire to learn new things and explore different ideas can be very strong. This could incline them to either seek out forms of education, self-education. They could be the type of person who, subscribes to like 1,000 YouTube channels and they're always learning how to do new things. And you may ask them a question and they could give you a pile of research material to go by. They could be the great, advice giving person who has like a podcast or a YouTube channel on how to fix different things, like how to jailbreak your phone or how to do your own taxes. Or these are individuals who are very high energy and they can be very restless. And this can either be mentally or physically. These people are very easily bored. And just like any other placement in Gemini, this can create a tension that is hard to be around for other people if it's not reined in properly or focused correctly. They're very adaptable and flexible, and this goes along with being open-minded, but it can also be in terms of their actual ability to handle multiple projects on the job or to switch gears easily. So multitasking may actually be possible for these people. Or on the other hand, it could actually just make them take on way too many things and then become overwhelmed. So they're very adaptable, but they do need to temper their adaptability with learning how much they can actually handle so that they don't become overloaded and then just do everything to a lesser degree of accuracy. They're very sociable and they enjoy social interactions, and they may have a wide circle of friends and acquaintances. They enjoy meeting and getting to know new people. So they could be the kind of people who collect friends and maybe just sort of skim the surface. I think we all know people like this who maybe have like 1 million people in their phone, but you point to any one of those entries and it's like, oh, it's just some guy I met on the plane coming back from wherever. And did you ever talk to them again? No, of course not. But they sort of collect people like Pokemons. They enjoy having a wide variety of friends as well. So they could be really great connectors. They could introduce people to other people. They could be the person who you ask, hey, do you happen to know anyone who is in this industry? If you're looking to get into publishing or something, they might have the perfect person that they could introduce you to. Or if you're looking for a plumber or someone to help you move, they might be the perfect person to be like, oh yeah, I know someone who does that. That's perfect. I have a guy. And they could be very versatile. They excel in a variety of things because they have such great diverse interests. They could also be very impulsive. This could be either their verbal or their physical activities. They may speak before they think, or they could make decisions before they've weighed the options too much. So you definitely want to find out what their other placements are in their chart, because who knows, maybe they have, Mars in Gemini, but they also have like Saturn in Capricorn. So they could be a very practical person, and they can also be very resourceful and quick thinking. So these could be the kind of people who will get themselves out of a situation by talking and thinking quickly and on their feet. And that's a great resource to have. That's a great characteristic to have. So they're dynamic, they're intellectual, and they thrive on communication and variety in their personal life and in their career, hopefully. So a few celebrities who have Mars in Gemini. Al Pacino, and I mean, he's a great example because the way he talks and his sparkling wit, and he's got a gravitas about him, but he's also got that playfulness. And I think a lot of the people on this list are very similar in their sort of verbal playfulness. Martin Luther King, Chris Evans, Natalie Portman, Uma Thurman, Jim Morrison, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Meryl Streep, Sandra Bullock, Naomi Campbell, Mike Tyson, and Dwayne Johnson. So we've talked a bit about what Mars in Gemini looks like in the birth chart and what it can look like in relationships. And we've also taken a bit of a look of what it looks like in transit and how it might affect you depending on your chart. And if you have found value in this episode, please feel free to share it. We're going to be doing these Mars ingress episodes periodically every time Mars goes into a new sign, but they are evergreen content because Mars obviously travels pretty quickly, and every 2 years it will come around to the same sign. So take a look at your chart and see what's going to be affected by Mars in Gemini over the next couple of months. In addition to talking about the celebrities and historical figures who have these placements, I always like to look through my personal charts and see who I know personally who has these placements. And I could not find a single acquaintance of mine who has Mars in Gemini, which is kind of weird. I mean, in astro.com, for example, I have almost 100 charts saved on my old software, on my old computer, which I've lamented that doesn't exist for the Mac. I have a bunch of charts stored. Not a single one of them has Mars in Gemini, which I think is really statistically bizarre. Tons of people I know have Mars in Scorpio or Sagittarius or Taurus or Capricorn, but none in Gemini. So if you have Mars in Gemini and you're listening to this and you're stamping your cute little Gemini feet and wondering why I'm not talking about anything that resonates with you, please feel free to write in or call in at starzology.com and set me straight. I would love to hear from anyone who has this placement, or any placement for that matter. So anyway, if you have found value in this episode, please feel free to share it. You can find us at starzology.com. You can write to us at starzology@gmail.com. You can find me at Ms. Pink, that's mspink.net. And please feel free to share and subscribe to my blog. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.